So good morning again, dear friends. So our next speaker is Ángeles. Born in Barcelona in a Theosophical family, she's a graduate in philology from the University of Barcelona. She was professor of French at the secondary school for 37 years, and for a short period, she was a lecturer at the University of Barcelona. She's a member of the Theosophical Society since 1972, and since then, she has actively participated in the activities organized by the Society. She was secretary of the European Federation of Young Theosophists and subsequently Vice Secretary General of the Spanish section and member of the board. For a short period, she was a member of the executive of the European Federation. She has also given many lectures in several Theosophical sections. And since 2013, she holds the position of Secretary General of the Spanish section of the TS. Please join me in welcoming the talk of Ángeles.
Hello, President of the European Federation, President of the TS in England, friends. It is an honor to be with you today, if only by video. Let me share the screen with you. Okay. So my contribution to the Congress consists on some reflections on the unity of all things. I would like to start with a quotation by Sri Ram, when he said that on the level of universe and mind, the essential unity of being is self-evident. This is the first idea that emerges, that the world and oneself are not two separate things, and that everything is interconnected and interrelated, because the main idea is that all is one. It is about the oneness of all things, and that whatever affects one part affects the rest. There is no separation between me and everything else, between me and my family members, between me and you, between us and the Earth, between the Earth and the other planets in the solar system, between the solar system and all the other systems in the galaxy, in all the galaxies in the entire universe. And because all is one, made up of all beings, Annie Besant tells us, "May him who feels himself as one with thee, know he is therefore one with every other." Let's begin by referring to a couple of letters of Mahatma K.H. in Trevor Barker's compilation. The letters in question are 23A and B, in which the Mahatma makes a number of very interesting points about the connection between all the planets in the solar system and also with the rest of the galaxy. The universe is a mosaic enlivened by a flow of consciousness in which we, all the numberless beings, are evolving entities. And each entity is essential and irreplaceable within the whole. Within this flow of consciousness, if one part is ill, the whole is ill, and vice versa. Therefore, every member of the solar system is a living entity. The solar system itself is a living organ, an entity, of which the sun is both the brain and the heart. The different planets are the organs of this organic entity, and our Earth is one of them. Just as our body, an organic entity as a whole, a unit, is helped in being such by the different organs, the heart, the brain, the kidneys, the liver, the stomach, and so forth. So the solar system itself, an organic entity, is aided in being such by all the organic units within it, the sun, the planets, the comets, and so forth. They all cooperate to produce a greater thing, guided as they are at each level by an entity which supervises, as it were, such cooperation. We may infer that cooperating as all these units do towards a common goal, nothing can be done properly if only one of these bodies refuses cooperative action and union in effort. And union here does not mean 2 or 3 organs coming together to oppose 2 or 3 other organs. It means all organic units, without a single exception, cooperating for the common universal good. If there is no such cooperation, if, for instance, one single organ were to die, then the whole organism dies, because the harmony and symmetry of the greater unit is interrupted, stopped. It is the same with the human body. Suppose my heart stopped functioning, my body would die. If my stomach disintegrated, my body would die, and so would every other organ. We need all these different things to make a complete and properly functioning human body. So, when we say that all things cooperate, work together to produce all things everywhere, we may be referring to all things on this earth. But it may also mean that this earth, in turn, cooperates with every other body in the solar system to produce the right effects on every other planet and on the sun, both good and not so good effects. And we might say likewise, both health and disease. So the Earth is an organ of the solar system. We humans, who are its inhabitants, contribute to the health or sickness of that organ. Everything that happens, everything we think, do, and feel affects the rest of the planet. Not only on a planetary scale, it also influences the solar system. We need to become aware of this and start cooperating to improve the condition, not only of the planet, but also of the whole universe. We humans who live on Earth and believe we are its owners, when in reality we are its guests, are not aware of or tend to forget this global cooperation that takes place in all areas and at all levels. And forgetting that everything that happens on Earth is because of this cosmic cooperation, what we do is to interfere with our free will and our ignorance of the laws of nature. Health, as well as sickness and diseases, seem to be a karmic consequence of the character and tendencies impressed upon the components of the various garments with which the human ego that we are is clothed during each incarnation on Earth. We are speaking of the thoughts, the feelings, the desires, and the habits, which shape the character and tendencies that make up the so-called skandhas. These skandhas do not reach the Devachan, but when the ego returns to Earth, they are waiting for him. We know that life is continuous, despite the fact that no thing is permanent. The body we had when we were children is not the same as it is now. So our soul, so to speak, the ego that we are, after absorbing and incorporating for the better the experiences in the Devachan, when it person in a way. But at the core, it will certainly still be the same soul, the same ego as before, although with another face, another body, and also other diseases, for all these are subject to change according to karma and evolution. Why do we get sick? The mind, centered on personal matters, creates obstructions in the flow of the high consciousness. Karma factor. Let's consider what factors it conveys. Immediate karma, previous karma, and disharmony. When there is disharmony, disease reflects it on the physical plane, though it is the result of disharmony on the inner and invisible planes. Since sickness is but a disharmony, one should try to restore the lost harmony through human regeneration, both outer and inner, which will help us to move out of the personal field into an impersonal one, where there are no barriers and no differences, because there it is a fact that all is one. Sri Ram stated that there can be no harmony within the body unless there is also harmony with its environment, that is, the right kind of interchange with it. We could then say that diseases come about because of disharmony, ignorance, selfishness, and disrespect for the law. However, disease is also a purge through the suffering body. It is one way for the soul to progress. Could we then think that disease arises in man's negative thoughts, in his selfish impulses and selfish propensities? So, if we do not endure disease as best we can, and try to suppress its effects without understanding its causes, and therefore without restoring the inner and outer balance of the disease, sooner or later it will recur, because the unfinished karma that caused it will not have been resolved. Healing is nothing more than helping nature to bring restoration to health, to re-establish normal conditions in the sufferer. A true healing is helping the body to heal itself. We could talk at length about the methods of healing as well as about karma, but that would take us into a much longer lecture, which is not the case now. So let us say that there are many types of healing because there are many types of illnesses: physical, psychological, mental, emotional. But this kind of healing always corresponds to the personality, because the pilgrim, the monad, our true essence, is never sick. The purpose of the human being as an interacting part of this stream of universal consciousness is to live according to the divine plan. This will only be achieved when we can abandon the selfish center of the personal plane and enter the realm of the impersonal. Let us talk now about the extraordinary power of mind. This is an aspect on which I would like to ponder a little. What brings about diversity of feeling and opinion among men is the mind, the brain mind. What prevents us from receiving a greater truth that we now have is preconceived ideas, prejudices, feelings against this or against that, the mind, the brain mind. What prevents intuition from flowing into our human consciousness in a steady stream is the mind through which it must pass. So the mind is but an intermediate organ or faculty and does things either from below or from above. Unfortunately, most of us humans live in the lower mind. The thoughts we produce are our own creations. Once uttered, they take on a life of their own. We are responsible for what we create with our minds and for the repercussions they will have. Thoughts lead to words and action. They can be self-polluting, in which case they end up causing illness. Are there no illnesses listed as a result of too much stress or too much worry? But we must not forget the words into which some thoughts flow. They can be verbal aggressions, gossip, etc. These are all components that pollute the mental atmosphere of the planet and envelop humanity. We feed it with our mental creations, positive or negative, healing or poisoning. So each of us is a transmitter of such creations, but at the same time we are also receivers of the emissions of others, or at least of those that are tuned to our own wavelength, to our own mental and emotional vibration. Therefore, by emitting a negative attitude, we pollute the mental atmosphere of those around us. And we can be influenced by the negative attitude of others as well. So it seems advisable to expand our receptive capacity for positive waves. And at the same time, it is advisable to develop the habit of cultivating and emitting good thoughts, lofty thoughts, which can contribute to the uplifting of the mental atmosphere of humanity, which, by the way, it is in great need. Our admired Joy Mills said once, "Our task is to transform kama manas into buddhi manas, the desire-driven mind into the love-enlightened mind. In that transformation, we release all the potentials of the living God within us: compassion and care, humility and gentleness, patience and infinite concern for the welfare of all. And in that transformation, we will have obeyed the Buddha's injunction to produce love in one's mind, a love that knows there is no other. For there is only the one which remembers itself in its myriad forms." So, how to prevent disharmony? After these sketchy notes, it is time to ask ourselves how we can prevent disharmony, both individually and collectively. The Buddhist recommendation of the middle way immediately springs to mind. It is a proposal for all kinds of people. The Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path is for ordinary people to apply in their everyday life. Those who wish at some point in their existence to tread the Chela path can try to follow the paramitas. From what has been said so far on the subject of healing, both personally and for the world, it is essential to begin to follow some recommendations that the sages from all times have given us. Let's just mention 3 paramitas as a preventive measure against disease and other sickness, both for oneself and for the world. Let's emphasize the importance of viraga, indifference to pleasure and pain, of chanti, tolerance, patience, contentment, non-resentment, acceptance, which will help to maintain a calm and equitable mind. And last but not least, dana, forgiveness, charity, and love. Perhaps this one should come first. But we already know that the paramitas have to be practiced all together because they are inseparable from each other. By way of conclusion, let's remember the interconnectedness of everything mentioned at the beginning of this talk, that everything affects everything else. Now, I will ask 3 questions for everyone to quietly ponder for themselves. 1. How do I contribute to the mental sphere of the planet and the world? 2. How do I contribute to the psychic and emotional sphere of the planet, of the world? And 3. How do I contribute to the planet itself, the Earth, physically, to this beautiful planet that welcomes us to live on it, that gives us the opportunity to learn all that we must learn in our human stage, considering that we can only learn while we are incarnated on it. Remember that we are composite entities. Our pure essence is our spiritual part, and it is that which inspires that other part that connects us to the personal world. It is that part between heaven and earth that is learning how to work in this world, down here. And it is on earth that human beings can learn their lessons and grow. I would like to end this talk by sharing with you a quotation that I found highly inspiring. It is from G.G. Purucker, published in the Theosophical Forum in November 1940. And the title is 3 Things to Remember. And I believe we would do well to remember them as well. 1. Never forget the teachings of the Universal Brotherhood. Even if conditions are not so easy, are so difficult that you cannot teach it from the housetops or in public, carry it in your own heart. Number 2, remember our individual responsibility as human beings. We cannot escape it. We will have to account for everything we think, feel, and do. Let our record, when our last breath is drawn, be such that we can again have a flash from the first moments of self-conscious thought and say, I have fought a good fight. I have done my duty. I have not consciously harmed anyone. I am ready. Then will come the appearance before that infinitely just tribunal, the tribunal of the higher self within, the God within, which every human being faces for a few fleeting moments when the last breath has been breathed. When the last breath has been breathed. No excuses are allowed before it. The soul is naked. It is weighted in the scales of uncompromising but infallible justice and love. The future incarnation will be according to the cosmic record made by you as human souls before the tribunal of your inner God. Number 3, carry this in your hearts. It was the prayer of Socrates. It is a guide in life. It was in substance this: O Father Zeus, guide me in such way to live that the outer man on earth and the inner man may be one. Thank you.